He packed 4 suitcases on a Tuesday evening, did not say goodbye to the babies growing inside her, did not look back at the woman who had quietly built everything he called his, just rolled 4 monogrammed bags to the door, said, "The prenup is clear," and left. She had $237, no job, no house, twins coming in 3 months, and a husband who had already replaced her with someone younger before she had even finished decorating the nursery. Most people would have taken the settlement and disappeared. Catherine Whitmore was not most people. What happened next is not a story about revenge. It is not a story about a woman who got lucky, or a woman who was rescued, or a woman who fell apart and needed saving. It is a story about what happens when someone takes everything from you. Your money, your security, your future, your name. And you decide quietly, in the dark, on an air mattress in a 300-square-foot apartment, that disappearing is simply not something you are willing to do. 9 months after he walked out, she held 2 babies she had grown alone. 4 years after that, she rang the opening bell at the NASDAQ. $870 million. Built from nothing. Built from spite. No. Built from something much harder to manufacture and much more difficult to destroy. Stay with me, because this story is going to show you exactly how she did it, and why the most dangerous thing Brandon Ashford ever did was underestimate the woman he left behind. Lesson statement. This story is proof that being left is not the same as being lost, and that the life someone tries to take from you can become the foundation of everything you build next. Meaning and value. What Catherine's story gives you is not just drama. It is a blueprint for what resilience actually looks like when it is not pretty, when it is an air mattress and a laptop and a business plan written at 3 in the morning because giving up simply never made the list. If you have ever been told you are not enough, if you have ever watched someone take credit for your work, if you have ever started over from a number so small it felt like a joke, this story is for you. It is a reminder that the people who try to erase you are counting on your cooperation, and you do not have to give it to them. If the story stayed with you, if Catherine's refusal to disappear hit something real, do something small right now. Hit the like button. It takes 1 second and it tells me that stories like this matter to you. Drop a comment and tell me which moment stopped you cold. Was it the $237, the air mattress business plan, the moment she rang that bell with her babies on her hips? Share this with one person in your life who needs to hear it right now. You know who they are. Send it without explanation. They will understand when they watch it. And if you are new here, subscribe. Every single week I bring you stories of real resilience, of people who were written off and refused to accept the ending that was handed to them. You will not regret staying. This community is built on one belief, that how a story starts is never the whole story. Neither is yours.
The trading floor of the NASDAQ is loud in a way that gets inside your chest. Catherine Whitmore had been warned about that. She had been warned about a lot of things in her life. Wear sunscreen, read the prenup, do not marry a man who introduces you to his mother as my girlfriend for the first 14 months of a relationship. She had listened to approximately none of it, but she was listening now. She stood at the podium in a navy blazer she had bought off a clearance rack 18 months ago and had dry cleaned exactly once, and she held the hands of 2 4-year-olds who had no idea what was happening but were deeply committed to being present for it. Elijah was fighting his clip-on tie with the focused aggression of someone who had personal beef with formal accessories. Meredith was holding her stuffed rabbit, Biscuit, with one hand and Catherine's fingers with the other, surveying the crowd with the calm authority of a small person who has assessed this situation and found it acceptable. Behind her, Diane Patterson, who had quit her law firm for her, who was now COO of everything they had built, who was crying behind very expensive sunglasses indoors. In the front row, Marcus Webb, who had believed in her when she was broke and horizontal on an air mattress in a 300-square-foot studio apartment. On the board above her head, Morrison Group, opening at $32 per share. Valuation, $870 million. Catherine looked at the camera. She thought about 4 years ago. A Malibu house with an infinity pool. 4 leather suitcases by the front door. $237 in her bank account. Twins she had not yet met growing inside her, depending on her, not yet aware that the man who helped create them had already decided to leave. She thought about 3 a.m. on an air mattress with a laptop balanced on her pregnant stomach, typing a business plan because there was nothing else to do, and giving up was not something she was willing to put on the list. She thought about everything it had cost, everything it had built. She rang the bell. The floor erupted. Elijah stopped fighting his tie long enough to clap, because everyone else was clapping. Meredith looked up at her and said, very seriously, "Mama, are we rich now?" Catherine picked her up, picked Elijah up too, one on each hip, the way she had learned to carry the world. "We're secure," she said. "That's better." 3 years and 8 months before the bell, on a Tuesday evening in October, Catherine Whitmore pulled her car into the driveway of the house in Malibu and noticed that something was wrong before she had turned off the engine. She could not have said exactly what it was, not the light, which was warm through the front windows the way it always was at 7 in the evening. Not the garden, which was the same as it had been that morning when she left for her OB appointment. Not any single observable detail. Just the air. Something in the air. She sat in the car for a moment with her hands still on the steering wheel, her doctor's voice still warm in her memory. Healthy heartbeats. Good growth. Everything looks perfect, Catherine. The babies are doing wonderfully. She had driven home from that appointment thinking about paint colors for the nursery. She had narrowed it down to soft peach or pale yellow. She had been leaning toward peach. She turned off the engine and walked to the front door. 4 leather suitcases, monogrammed. The expensive ones Brandon used for business trips to New York and San Francisco and Tokyo. The ones that lived in the back of the walk-in closet and smelled like departure. All 4 of them. Together. By the door. Catherine stood on the threshold and looked at them the way you look at something that does not make sense, waiting for your brain to catch up. "Brandon?" Her voice came out smaller than she wanted. She pressed her hand against her belly, the automatic gesture she had developed over the past 6 months. The babies were quiet, which meant they were probably sleeping, which meant this was not the moment she would have chosen for whatever this was. He appeared at the top of the stairs, freshly showered, collared shirt, the cologne she recognized as the one he wore for important meetings, for dinners at places with dress codes, for impressing people. The cologne he had not worn for her in 8 months. He descended without looking at her. His eyes were on his phone, which was lit up with a text thread he did not offer to explain. "We need to talk," he said. She knew. Standing there in the foyer of the house she had decorated and maintained and made warm for 4 years, 6 months pregnant, and still wearing the flats she had put on that morning when she believed this was going to be an ordinary Tuesday, she knew. Her hands pressed harder against her belly. "What's happening?" she asked. The words felt stupid in her mouth. She already knew what was happening. She just needed him to say it. Brandon set his phone face down on the console table. He looked at her the way she had seen him look at employees he was letting go. Blank, professional, the face of someone who has made a decision and is not inviting discussion. "I'm leaving," he said. "I've already filed." The world tilted. She reached for the doorframe. "Filed what?" "Divorce papers. My lawyer will contact yours. If you don't have one, get one." "We're having babies," she said. "Our babies. In 3 months. I know the timeline." His phone lit up again. He glanced at it. Something moved across his face. Not guilt, she would think later. Not even discomfort. Something more like impatience, the way you look at a delay between where you are and where you want to be. Is there someone else? She hated how her voice cracked on the question. Hated that she was asking it. Hated that she had to. That's not relevant. "Brandon." Her voice went hard. Harder than she had expected it to. "We are married. I am 6 months pregnant with twins. How is that not relevant?" "Because either way, I'm leaving." He said it the way you say the weather forecast. Factual. Already decided. The marriage is over. I've grown in directions you haven't. I need to find myself. Find himself. In those words, she heard every conversation they had not had. Every evening, he came home late from client dinners that were not quite client dinners. Every weekend trip, he took solo. For work, he said, always for work. Every time his phone screen had gone dark, a fraction too quickly when she walked into the room. "Who is she?" Catherine asked. He exhaled the breath of a man who finds his own wrongdoing tedious to discuss. "Her name is Sienna. We met 6 months ago." 6 months ago, Catherine had been 3 months pregnant. 6 months ago, she had been vomiting every morning and exhausted by noon, and so grateful to have someone who rubbed her back at night. 6 months ago, she had believed, with the trusting certainty of someone who had given everything she had to a marriage, that the man rubbing her back was doing it because he loved her. She made it to the couch, sat down carefully. The way she did, everything now, with awareness of the weight she was carrying, the lives depending on her stability. Brandon picked up the first suitcase, then the second, the third, the fourth. He paused at the door. "The prenup is clear," he said. "You'll be fine. Don't make this difficult." He walked out. The door closed behind him. She heard his car. The Tesla she had encouraged him to buy. "The future is electric. Think of the children," she had said. "Think of the children." Purring down the driveway. Think of the children. She sat in the silence of a house that held $4 million worth of other people's decisions and opened her phone browser with shaking hands. Brandon Ashford. The first result loaded in under a second. Tech CEO steps out with Instagram. Model. Sources say it has been months. The photo showed Brandon with his arm around a young woman, blonde, 20-something, dressed for a camera, the particular kind of beautiful that photographs well and does not require effort to maintain. His smile was the smile Catherine had been trying to locate for 8 months. Wide, unguarded, present. She clicked the article. She read it. She scrolled through the photographs, 6 months of them, time-stamped and public, a relationship that everyone had apparently known about except her. She read the comments. She should not have read the comments. She put her hands on her belly. The babies were moving now, slow, rolling kicks, reassuring in the way of people who do not yet know enough to be frightened. Sharp pain, abdomen, tight, rhythmic. She dialed 911. The paramedics arrived in 12 minutes. Braxton Hicks, the ER doctor, told her 2 hours later, false labor, very common with twins, very common with stress. Your babies are fine, both heartbeats strong, but you need to manage your stress levels. Is there someone who can stay with you tonight? Catherine looked at the ceiling tiles and counted them. 47. She plugged in her dead phone. It loaded 37 missed calls from one number. She pressed call. Diane Patterson answered on the first ring. Cat? Thank God. Where are you? Hospital. False alarm. I'm getting on a plane. Don't sign anything. Don't talk to anyone. 4 hours. Can you hold on for 4 hours, Sol? Catherine looked at the monitors beside her bed. 2 heartbeats. Steady. Consistent. Refusing to stop. Yes, she said. Diane Patterson arrived at 2 in the morning, wearing a Patagonia vest over pajama pants, with a rolling suitcase and lipstick that was, somehow, completely intact. She took one look at Catherine in the hospital bed and crossed the room in 4 steps and pulled her into a hug that said everything words would have done badly. Then she sat down, pulled out her phone like a weapon, and started taking notes. Credit cards. Frozen. Joint accounts. Catherine pulled up her banking app. The balance in the account she had kept separate. Her private safety net, the account she had maintained for 4 years out of some instinct she had never examined too closely, the account that 2 weeks ago had held $15,000. $237, she said. Diane went very still. He left a 6 months pregnant woman $237. Yes. Not $250. Diane's voice was precise in the way it got when she was angry and choosing to channel it. Not 200. 237. That is a man who was thinking about it. And then he kept thinking, and still chose petty. She made a call at 3 in the morning to Frank Delano, who answered because Diane had that quality about her. People answered when she called, not because they feared her, but because experience had taught them that if Diane Patterson was calling at 3 in the morning, it was important. Frank Delano was 57 years old, silver-haired, with the patient eyes of someone who had seen every variety of human cruelty and had spent 4 decades making sure it carried a price tag. He drove to the hospital before sunrise. They reviewed the prenup in Catherine's hospital room while the monitors beeped, and the sky outside went from black to gray to the tentative pink of early morning. The document was 23 pages. It had been presented to Catherine 10 years ago, 3 weeks before their wedding, by Brandon's family attorney. She had been 22. She had been in love. She had signed it because she believed in the marriage and because Brandon's mother had sat across from her at a lunch that cost more than Catherine's monthly rent and explained that it was standard, it was practical, it was what responsible people of means did, and Catherine had nodded, the way you nod when you are young and optimistic and have not yet learned that the things people call standard are sometimes just the things they have decided you should accept. The document gave her $200,000 if the marriage lasted 5 years. It did. Everything else, the house, the investments, the cars, every asset accumulated during the marriage, went to Brandon. Frank read in silence. Then, there's a clause in Section 14. Diane was already there. Infidelity prior to filing. If either party commits adultery before the divorce papers are filed, the agreement is void. Community property, 50-50 split. He's been with this woman for 6 months, Catherine said. We need to prove it, Frank said. Photographs are a start. We need financial records, documentation. A timeline that predates the filing. How do we get that? Discovery, subpoenas. We make noise and then we see what noise dislodges. He looked at her over his reading glasses. People who believe they are untouchable make mistakes. And from everything you've described, your husband is a man who has believed he is untouchable for a very long time. And they discharged Catherine at 6 in the morning. Diane drove her home in a rental car. The house was exactly the same. This was the first thing Catherine noticed. How precisely ordinary it looked, how nothing in it had rearranged itself to mark the ending of things. The cream couch was still the cream couch. The framed photographs were still on the walls. The nursery down the hall was still half painted, pale peach on 2 walls, roller leaning against the third, waiting for her to come back and finish. She walked past it without stopping. In Brandon's office, she opened the filing cabinets. She was not sure what she was looking for. She told herself she was looking for financial records, for anything that might help Frank and Diane. But what she found was different. Board meeting minutes, 4 years old. She pulled them out, read by the light of the desk lamp. Brandon Ashford presented the quantum rebrand strategy. Board unanimously approved. Budget of $2 million allocated. She stopped. She knew that strategy. She had designed it at their kitchen table on a rainy Sunday afternoon while Brandon was on the phone, and afterward she had walked him through the whole concept over dinner, explaining the positioning, the visual language, the audience segmentation, all of it. And he had looked at her the way he used to look at her then, like she was the most interesting person in any room. And he had said, "That is brilliant. I'm going to pitch this to the board." And she had thought, we are going to pitch this, our idea. There were more, campaign after campaign, strategy after strategy, her ideas, her frameworks, her thinking, all of it presented to boards and clients and investors under his name, all of it celebrated as his vision. She had built his company, and then he had thrown her away. Catherine sat on the floor of his office, surrounded by files, and felt something shift inside her. Not grief, not even anger exactly. Something colder than anger, something that did not need to be loud. She put the files back. She closed the cabinet. She walked to the kitchen, made herself a cup of tea, and sat at the table until Diane found her there an hour later. "You look different," Diane said. "I'm done crying," Catherine said. Diane looked at her for a long moment. Then she sat down across from her and opened her laptop. "Good," she said. Let's get to work." They filed emergency motions that afternoon. Temporary support, $25,000 per month. Access to marital funds. Subpoenas for Brandon's financial records, personal and corporate. Brandon would be served by end of day. Catherine drove to her OB appointment that afternoon, sat in the waiting room among women in various stages of pregnancy, and thought about the word community property, about how much half of everything might be, about what she could build with half of everything, about what she could build with nothing, if it came to that. The doctor listened to 2 heartbeats, both strong, both exactly where they should be. "One more thing," the doctor said, looking at her chart. "You need to reduce your stress levels, Catherine. I know that's easy to say, but these babies need you calm. Can you find one thing that helps? One thing that's just for you?" Catherine thought about it. "I used to love marketing," she said, "building things, problem solving." "Then do that," the doctor said. "Whatever it used to feel like to be good at something. Find your way back to that." Catherine nodded. She drove home. She sat in the driveway for a moment before going inside. She thought, "I was good at something once. Before I became just his wife. Before I became someone who signed documents without reading them and trusted a man because she loved him. I was good at something. I am going to be good at something again." She went inside and called Diane. "I need to start planning what comes after," she said. "Not just the divorce, what I build after." "One crisis at a time," Diane said. "I can manage 2, Catherine said. The text arrived on a Wednesday morning while Catherine was eating the toast Diane had forced on her. 2 bites, then another, 1 more. "Come on. You need to eat. You are growing 2 humans." And it came from a number she did not recognize. "Miss Whitmore, this is Roger Calloway. I need to speak with you privately. It's important. Can we meet?" She showed Diane. Diane read it. "Roger Calloway, Brandon's business partner, 49% owner. We see each other at company events. He's always been professional. Polite. Why would he reach out to you now? I don't know. Diane turned the phone over in her hands, thinking. Could be a trap. Brandon could be sending him to feel out what you know. Could be. Could also be useful. Diane handed the phone back. What do you have to lose? Frank came with them. Coffee shop in Culver City, 10 in the morning, the kind of place with exposed brick and single-origin espresso and enough ambient noise to have a private conversation. Roger was already there when they arrived, in the back booth, wearing a baseball cap pulled low in the manner of someone who has never done anything covert in his life and is making a sincere effort. He looked like what he was. A man in his mid-40s who had built something real and was watching someone else burn it down. He slid an envelope across the table before they had ordered. I'm violating my NDA by being here, he said. I want you to know that. I want you to know that I'm doing it anyway. Catherine opened the envelope. Inside, payroll records, expense reports, hotel receipts, all printed cleanly, all date-stamped, all meticulous in the way that financial records are, when someone has been careful about everything, except whether they would eventually be seen. Frank took the documents and read. His expression moved through several phases before settling somewhere that Catherine had learned, over weeks of watching him work, meant he was pleased but disciplined about showing it. Sienna Blake, he said. Marketing consultant, $20,000 per month. She's not a marketing consultant, Roger said. She has never consulted on anything. She is a line item. $20,000 a month for 8 months. Frank did the math. $160,000. That's not all? Roger leaned forward. The apartment she lives in downtown. Luxury building, 22nd floor, city views. That apartment is leased to Ashford Technologies. Listed as corporate housing for visiting executives. He paused. Sienna is the only person who has ever lived there. $7,500 a month. Business trips, Frank said, flipping to the next page. Paris, Tokyo, Sedona, all documented as client meetings, all with a second airline ticket, business class, charged to the company account, 5-star hotels, spa charges, restaurant dinners for 2, all expensed. Roger looked at the table. I have been counting. Total, across 8 months, close to $400,000. The table was quiet. Outside, someone ordered a latte. The espresso machine ran. Why are you telling me this? Catherine asked. Roger looked at her. He had kind eyes, she had always thought. The eyes of someone who understood that business was made of people, not only numbers. Because it's theft, he said. Because I spent 10 years building that company. I gave up things for that company. Time, relationships, choices I cannot take back. And Brandon is dismantling it to fund a lifestyle for someone he met at a rooftop party in Beverly Hills. He paused. And because you have always been decent to me. 8 years of company events, and you have never once treated me like furniture. That matters. He stood. That's everything I have, he said. The rest is up to you. He walked out without looking back, the baseball cap still pulled low, a man who had done the right thing and was processing the cost of it. Frank organized the documents on the table with the efficient precision of someone building a structure. This voids the prenup, he said. Adultery, documented, and dated. This is also fraud, embezzlement, breach of fiduciary duty. He's finished, Diane said. She said it quietly, without satisfaction. The way you state a fact about weather. Catherine looked at the papers spread across the table, at the receipts for hotel rooms she had not known about, airline tickets for a woman she had not known existed, salary payments for work that was never performed. She thought about the Sunday afternoons she had cooked dinner while he was at client dinners. She thought about the quantum rebrand campaign, about every idea she had given him freely, out of love, out of partnership, out of the belief that what was his was also hers. File everything, she said, today. The cameras were already there when they arrived. Catherine had not expected that. She had prepared for the legal process. Frank had walked her through every step, every likely argument, every possible response. But she had not prepared for the particular violation of walking up courthouse steps while strangers pointed equipment at her body and called out questions designed to reach inside her and find something soft to press on. Catherine, how do you feel about the affair? Did you push Brandon away? Are you trying to destroy a successful company out of spite? Is it true you've been struggling emotionally? Frank kept his hand on her elbow. Diane flanked her other side. Catherine kept her eyes forward and counted steps. 1, 2, 3, 4. Inside, the courthouse was cooler and quieter and smelled like old carpet and institutional cleaning products, which was, in the circumstances, a relief. Brandon was already in the courtroom, expensive suit, 3 lawyers. He sat with the relaxed posture of someone who has never once doubted whether the room would arrange itself in his favor. Sienna sat behind him in the gallery. Blonde hair, tight dress, phone in hand, scrolling. She looked bored in the way of someone who has not been asked to take any of this seriously and has so far had no reason to start. Judge Patricia Wells entered. She was 58, gray-haired, with the economical bearing of someone who had spent 3 decades deciding what mattered and what did not, and had developed strong opinions on the subject. Brandon's lawyer went first, tall, polished, the kind of legal professional who charged rates that required a separate line in a budget. He described Catherine as emotionally volatile, as seeking punitive damages out of personal grievance, as a woman whose pregnancy had amplified an already unstable disposition. He also produced a psychiatric evaluation. Frank received it, read 2 pages, and stood. Your Honor, this document was commissioned without my client's knowledge, participation, or consent, based entirely on statements from parties who have an obvious interest in the outcome of this proceeding. It has no evidentiary standing. Judge Wells looked at it. Set it down. A document produced without the subject's knowledge carries no weight in my courtroom, Counselor. Next. She turned to Catherine. Miss Whitmore, you are 6 months pregnant with twins. You have no current income, and your access to all marital accounts has been restricted. Yes, Your Honor. How are you managing? My friend is supporting me. Wells made a note. She looked at Brandon's lawyer with an expression that was not unkind and was also not anything close to sympathetic. Your client restricted access to all marital funds while his wife is 6 months pregnant. You characterize this as protecting assets. I am going to characterize it differently. She granted temporary support, $25,000 per month, retroactive to the date Brandon left. Credit access restored with a $50,000 limit. She ordered the forensic audit. Full access to Ashford Technologies records. Results due in 90 days. Brandon's jaw tightened by a precise and revealing amount. They walked out. Frank handled the reporters. Catherine and Diane took a side exit to the parking garage. In the car, Catherine sat in the passenger seat for a full 30 seconds before she spoke. Did that actually happen? She asked. It happened, Diane said. We won. We won. Diane turned the key. The engine started. She did not move yet. I told you so, about the prenup. I want that acknowledged. Catherine laughed. It came out rough, unpracticed, like something that had been stored too long. But it was real. Acknowledged, she said. That evening, Brandon held a press conference. Catherine was home, eating dinner with Diane, when his face appeared on the television. He stood at a podium. His hair was perfect, his expression was calibrated to the precise frequency of concerned and reasonable. I want to address the allegations made against me today. My wife is going through a very difficult time. Pregnancy is hard. Carrying twins is harder. I have compassion for her, but the claims about my business practices are entirely false, and I will not allow my reputation to be dismantled by someone acting out of personal pain. He said the word wife the way you say a word in a foreign language you have mostly forgotten. Catherine's phone started buzzing. Messages from people she had not heard from in months. He seems really worried about you. Maybe take a break from the legal stuff? For the babies? Pregnancy hormones can make things feel bigger than they are, Kat. She deleted them, methodically, one after another. Diane read over her shoulder. People are deeply committed to believing the version of events that requires them to do nothing, she observed. I know. Ignore them. I know. The only opinion that matters right now is Judge Wells. I know. Catherine set down her phone. I know. But that night, alone in the bedroom, she had stripped of his sheets and remade with ones that smelled only of laundry detergent. She did not sleep. She lay in the dark and listened to the house and thought about what he had said on television. Personal pain, like she was a weather event, something that happened to him. She got up, found cleaning supplies, scrubbed the kitchen floor. At 2 a.m, Diane found her on her hands and knees, working on the grout with a toothbrush. Cat, the grout was bothering me. The grout is fine. You need to sleep. I'm not tired. Diane knelt beside her, took the toothbrush, helped her up, walked her back upstairs, and lay down beside her, in the dark, the way she had probably done in their college dormitory 20 years ago, holding her hand without making a production of it. I'm so tired, Catherine said. Not physically, just tired. I know, Diane said. Of everything, I know, but you're not done yet. And tomorrow, someone is going to call you. Who? I don't know yet, but something is about to break in our direction. I can feel it. Catherine closed her eyes. She slept. The call came on a Thursday morning while Catherine was making coffee. Real coffee now, because she had learned from a lactation consultant that moderate caffeine was acceptable, and because some battles could not be fought on chamomile tea alone. The number was Margaret Ashford, Brandon's mother, 64 years old, silver-haired, immaculately maintained, old Connecticut money in a Malibu house, the woman who had insisted on the prenup and served Earl Grey at every family gathering with the air of someone for whom hospitality was a form of control. Catherine almost did not answer. She answered. Catherine, Margaret said. She sounded different, older. The polish was still there, but underneath it, something that might have been exhaustion. I need to speak with you, not on behalf of Brandon, despite him. They met at a coffee shop in Pasadena, neutral ground, tables outside. Margaret arrived precisely on time in a cream linen blazer, looking like a woman who had slept badly and chosen to dress well as compensation. She ordered the Earl Grey. Of course she did. I owe you an apology, she said. My call after the court hearing was cruel. I was protecting my son because that is the reflex of a mother, and I let that reflex override my judgment. I am not proud of it. Catherine said nothing. So she waited. There is something you should know about Brandon. Margaret folded her hands around the teacup. Something I should have told you before you married him. She told it cleanly, without ornamentation. 10 years ago, a woman named Melissa Hartley, engaged to Brandon, 4 months pregnant. Brandon had met someone else. He had left Melissa exactly as he had left Catherine. Suddenly, with a lawyer's number and a prenup settlement waiting, Melissa had miscarried. The stress, the doctors said, Brandon had paid her $200,000 to sign a non-disclosure agreement and disappear. Catherine looked at her coffee cup. $200,000, she said. Yes. The number from her own prenup, the price of silence, the cost of a woman who had been removed from a life and compensated for the inconvenience. Why are you telling me this now? Catherine asked. Margaret reached into her bag and placed a folder on the table. Because I am 74 days away from meeting my grandchildren, she said, and I am tired of protecting a man who does not deserve it at the expense of the woman who actually loves them. Catherine opened the folder. Trust fund documentation. Robert Ashford, Brandon's late father, had established the fund before his death. $10 million, split equally among biological grandchildren. Brandon had no trustee authority. Margaret did. The twins were already worth $5 million each, and Brandon had never mentioned it. He wanted you to feel powerless, Margaret said. He wanted you to take the $200,000 and disappear like Melissa did. He did not want you to know that your children had independent resources, because that would give you standing. That would give you power. Catherine read through the documents carefully, the way she had learned. Too late, but still, to read everything. Why did he think this would work? She asked finally. Did he think I was that easy to erase? Margaret looked at her for a long moment. Her expression was complicated, in the way of someone's sorting through several true things to find the most honest one. He thought you were like Melissa, she said. He thought you were someone who would choose the path of least resistance because the alternative was too frightening. He was wrong about you. Were you wrong about me? Another pause? Longer? Yes, Margaret said. I was. I thought you were sweet and accommodating and fundamentally manageable. I did not understand that what I was reading as accommodation was actually patience. I apologize for that as well. They sat in the weak October sunlight for another hour, two women on opposite sides of a terrible situation, finding, unexpectedly, a corner of common ground. When Catherine left, she drove directly to Frank's office. He read the trust fund documents. Something in his face settled into satisfaction. This changes the argument entirely, he said. You're not a gold digger. You're not trying to extract money from a man who has more than you. Your children have independent wealth that predates this divorce. You are fighting for what is legally and morally right, not for financial survival. Does it help? It helps everything. Catherine leaned back in the chair. She thought about Melissa Hartley, whoever she was now, wherever she was now. Someone who had taken $200,000 and a non-disclosure agreement and disappeared because the alternative had seemed impossible. She thought about what Melissa might have become if she had stayed. If she had had someone like Diane, if she had had Frank, if she had known about the trust fund. She thought, I am fighting for both of us. They won the initial hearing. It was not a small victory. Judge Wells, reviewing the Roger Calloway documents, and the trust fund evidence, and the forensic audit order, granted everything Frank requested. Temporary support, credit access, the audit, a ruling that the infidelity clause was applicable and that the prenup's validity was subject to further review. Outside the courthouse, Parisum, in the parking structure, Diane hugged her so hard Catherine felt it in her spine. We won, Diane said. We won, Catherine agreed. She thought, we are going to be okay. For the first time since 4 leather suitcases on a Tuesday evening, she thought, we are actually going to be okay. She was wrong. The first catastrophe arrived 6 days later. Frank called. His voice was careful in the way it got when something required careful handling. Someone inside our operation has been talking to Brandon's legal team, he said. They know our strategy. The infidelity timeline, the Roger angle, the forensic audit approach. They've filed preemptive motions to suppress Roger's documents, arguing that they were obtained in violation of his NDA. Catherine sat down. Can they win that? It's not impossible. We'll fight it. But our element of surprise is gone. They're preparing defenses we have not yet built offenses for. Who talked? I don't know yet. I'm working on it. She put down the phone. She looked at the wall of her apartment. The small apartment now, 2-bedroom, the one she had moved into after the eviction notice that came on a Tuesday, with the particular timing of something designed to wound. Pale walls, furniture she had sourced secondhand, photos of the twins' first ultrasound on the refrigerator. The second catastrophe came 3 days after that. Marcus Webb called. His voice had the particular quality of someone delivering news they had not asked to deliver. 2 of my portfolio companies have backed out of working with you, he said. Brandon's team reached out to them, implied that maintaining a professional relationship with you during the litigation could complicate their existing relationships with Ashford Technologies investors. Her first clients. Gone. I'm sorry, Catherine. I'm working on alternatives, but I wanted you to hear it from me. She thanked him. She hung up. She looked at the business plan document on her laptop, 12 pages of careful thinking, the framework for what she had been building, and she thought about the money she did not have and the babies who were coming in 8 weeks, regardless of whether she had figured out any of this. $237. She was almost back to $237. The third catastrophe arrived on a Wednesday morning by phone. Diane's voice was different, quieter, the quality of quiet that comes not from having nothing to say but from choosing words precisely. My firm is asking me to recuse myself, she said. What? Conflict of interest, they're calling it. A senior partner has a golf relationship with someone in Brandon's father's circle, apparently. They want me off your case. The silence stretched. Gigant. I have savings, Diane said. I've already called Frank. He'll bring me on as co-counsel. I'll work the case independently. You'll lose your position, your partnership track. You gave up your career for a man who left you on a Tuesday. I can give up a partnership track for someone who deserves it. A pause. Also, I want to be very clear that this is not the same thing. I am making a choice. You were deceived. That is a significant distinction. Catherine pressed her fingers against her eyelids. That is the nicest and most depressing thing anyone has ever said to me, she said. I know. Diane's voice warmed slightly. We're going to cry about it later. Right now we work. That night, Catherine lay in the dark with her hands on her belly and thought about 3 things going wrong in sequence and whether this was the end of the forward motion, whether the universe had decided that she had used up her allocation of good luck with the initial hearing and was now settling accounts. The babies moved, one, then the other, insistent, refusing to let her be still in her grief. Still here, they seemed to say. Still here, keep going. She opened her laptop, typed Morrison Marketing Group, Business Plan, Draft 2. If the clients were gone, she would find new ones. If the strategy was compromised, they would build a new one. If the path was blocked, she would find the wall and climb it. She typed until 3 in the morning. Then she slept. The studio apartment was 300 square feet. This is not a metaphor. It was a literal 300 square feet, which is smaller than most people's living rooms, which is smaller than the walk-in closet at the Malibu house, which is a fact Catherine had thought about exactly once, and then decided not to think about again because the direction that thought wanted to travel was not useful. The carpet had a stain near the window that she had decided was probably from a houseplant. The refrigerator hummed with a frequency that suggested strong opinions. The window faced a brick wall, which her mother, when she finally came to visit, had described as very New York of it. The air mattress was a camping model she had bought at a 20% discount because the packaging was slightly damaged, It was fine. It was adequate. It was what she had, and she had learned over the preceding weeks to be specific about gratitude. She was alive. Her babies were alive. She had $237 and a compromised legal strategy and no clients and a best friend who had sacrificed her career because she believed in something. And these were the things that were true. And some of them were terrible, and some of them were extraordinary, and all of them were the materials she had to work with. She opened her laptop on the air mattress with her belly balanced under it and typed. She sent emails to every professional contact she had maintained since leaving her VP role 8 years ago. Quarterly check-ins, occasional LinkedIn messages, the professional courtesy she had kept up out of some instinct she had not examined until now. Most did not respond. Some sent polite declines. 3 asked for more information. Marcus called on a Tuesday morning, 10 days after the client withdrawal. "I heard what he did," Marcus said, "using my portfolio companies as leverage. That is not business strategy. That is a man who is running out of options and has decided to fight dirty." He paused. "Send me your proposal." She sent it from the air mattress at 11 at night. He called at 7 in the morning. "I'm making 3 introductions today," he said. "Your work is exceptional. Let the work speak." The first introduction declined. Too complicated, too much legal exposure. The second introduction asked to think about it. The third introduction said yes. A $10,000 contract. Remote work. Deliverable based. Starting immediately. The email arrived on a Thursday afternoon. Catherine read it twice, read it a third time. Then she cried. Not sad tears, not happy tears. The particular tears of someone who has been bracing for a fall for so long that not falling feels physical. Arrival tears. I am still here tears. She called Diane. "I have a client," she said. Diane made a sound that was not quite a word. $10,000. Remote. My work. Cat. "I know. Start today." I already did. She worked from the air mattress with a laptop balanced on her 8th-month belly, the babies kicking occasionally, as if offering editorial feedback. She delivered the first phase of the project 4 days early. The client responded within an hour. "This is exactly what we needed. Can we discuss extending the scope?" Marcus called. "They're referring you. 2 more companies want to meet." She took the meetings lying down, laptop propped, professional from the shoulder up, maternity leggings and thick socks below the camera frame, and she pitched with the precise confidence of someone who has stopped performing competence and started simply being it. Both companies hired her. She had 3 clients, $25,000 in contracted work, an air mattress in a 300-square-foot apartment, and a business that was beginning, quietly and without fanfare, to exist. The custody hearing was in 2 weeks. She prepared for it the way she prepared for everything now. Methodically, without catastrophizing, one piece at a time, Frank walked her through the likely attacks. Diane prepared her responses. They practiced in the kitchen of Diane's temporary sublet, Catherine sitting across from Diane, who played Brandon's lawyer with uncomfortable accuracy. The night before the hearing, she sat in the rocking chair she had rescued from the Malibu nursery. The only piece of furniture she had taken, the one thing she had insisted on, and spoke to the babies in the dark. "Tomorrow is important," she told them. "We're going to make sure you're mine. Legally, officially, beyond argument, mine. I know you already are, but tomorrow we make the world agree." They kicked, in tandem, which they had started doing recently, as if coordinating. She smiled. "I'll take that as a yes," she said. The custody hearing lasted 4 hours. Brandon's lawyer painted Catherine with practiced efficiency, unstable address, no reliable income, multiple hospitalizations, ongoing hostile litigation. The picture was technically accurate and strategically framed, every truth selected for maximum effect. The way you can describe a sunrise by talking only about the cold. Frank presented her consulting contracts, her client relationships, her income trajectory. He presented the trust fund documents, establishing that her children had independent financial security regardless of the outcome of the divorce. He presented something else, a simple timeline. The date Sienna Blake first appeared in Brandon's company records as a marketing consultant. The date Brandon and Catherine's first child was conceived. The same week. The courtroom was very quiet while Judge Wells reviewed the timeline. She looked at Brandon. You initiated this relationship while your wife was newly pregnant. Brandon's lawyer attempted an objection. Wells did not look at him. Your petition for full custody claims that your estranged wife is financially and emotionally unsuitable to parent. What I am looking at is a woman who has built a client base and a business framework while 8 months pregnant, while managing preterm labor, while fighting legal challenges you initiated, while living in circumstances you created by restricting her access to marital funds. She paused. The petition is denied. Miss Whitmore retains primary physical custody. Mr. Ashford, you will have supervised visitation 2 hours weekly at a neutral family center. Child support, $25,000 monthly, effective immediately. Outside, in the autumn sunlight on the courthouse steps, Diane gripped her hand so hard it should have hurt. You did it, she said. They're yours. Catherine stood on the steps in the October light and thought, it's over. The worst of it is over. We're going to be okay now. She thought that for 11 days. On the 12th day, Frank called. The forensic audit is back, he said. There is something in it you need to see. Come to the office. He had the documents spread across the conference table when she arrived. She had brought the babies in their car seats, Elijah in blue, Meredith in pale yellow, both asleep with the profound commitment of infants who have decided this is a sleeping situation. She read the document. She read page 47, her name, her signature, on a document she had never seen before. 3 years ago, Brandon had brought home paperwork. Company restructuring, he said. Standard forms, boring, she would not be interested. He just needed her signature on a few places. She had signed. She had trusted him. That signature had been separated from the document she had actually signed and reattached to the filing for a shell account used to funnel Sienna's payments. Her signature, his fraud, her name on his crime. He set me up, she said. Frank's voice was careful. The account was established 14 months before Sienna appeared publicly. The mechanism was built before he met her. The implication landed like something dropped from a significant height. He was planning to leave before he even found her, Catherine said. The framework was in place. He may not have known who he was leaving for. He knew he was leaving. She looked at her sleeping babies. He engineered the pregnancy, she said. The timing. He put my name on the account while I was newly pregnant because he knew it would be useful later, as leverage, as a way to threaten me into settling. If his lawyers can make the co-signatory argument stick, what happens to me? Frank met her eyes. Criminal exposure, not a certainty, not even a probability given the forensic analyst's timeline, but a threat they will absolutely use. Catherine looked at her daughter's face, at her son's, at the perfect, ordinary miracle of two human beings sleeping in car seats on the floor of a lawyer's conference room, trusting the world to hold them safe. She had not asked to be here. She had not chosen this. But here she was, and here they were, and the only question that mattered was what she did next. How do we fight it? She asked. Frank allowed himself a small, precise smile. I am very glad you asked that, he said. The forensic document analyst was a woman named Patricia Oakes, 51 years old, who had spent 23 years examining signatures and documents and the space between what people claimed was true and what the paper actually showed. She took 9 days. Her report was 27 pages. The relevant section was on page 11. The signature of Catherine Whitmore appears on the shell account filing. However, analysis of the binding margin, the paper fiber alignment, and the document dating indicates that the signature page was removed from its original document of execution and attached to the current filing. The signature is authentic. The document to which it is now attached is not the document that was signed. Frank filed it with the court on a Monday morning. Brandon's lawyers responded by Tuesday. They attempted to challenge the analyst's methodology, her credentials, the chain of custody of the documents. It was, Frank observed to Catherine over the phone, the legal equivalent of arguing about the color of the sky. You could do it. It did not change what was there. The hearing was scheduled for a Thursday. On Wednesday evening, Diane called. Sienna Blake has been subpoenaed, she said. Brandon's team is putting her on as a character witness. They want to establish that their relationship was transparent and consensual, which is meant to somehow counteract the embezzlement evidence by making it seem like a private matter. She's going to testify for him? She was subpoenaed. She doesn't have a choice. Diane paused. And here's what I think is interesting. Sienna was named in the embezzlement filing. She received the fraudulent consulting payments. She is technically an object of the investigation. She has been trying to distance herself from Brandon for 3 months. She moved to a new apartment 2 months ago. She posted a photo from Palm Springs last week without him. I think their relationship ended, and I think she is angry about it. You think she'll flip? I think, Diane said carefully, that a 24-year-old woman who was told she was the great love of someone's life and then discovered she was a line item in a financial crime might have thoughts about the matter. The hearing was Thursday at 9. Brandon's lawyer called Sienna to the stand at 11. She looked different from the tabloid photos, less performed. She wore a simple blue dress and her hair was pulled back, and she looked, Catherine thought, like someone who had spent a few months thinking about things. Brandon's lawyer asked her to describe her professional relationship with Ashford Technologies. She answered in short, careful sentences. The lawyer moved toward the question he actually wanted, establishing that the relationship had been mutual, consensual, fully disclosed. Then Frank stood for cross-examination. He asked one question. Ms. Blake, when did Mr. Ashford first discuss leaving his wife? The courtroom was quiet. Brandon's lawyer was on his feet immediately with an objection. Wells overruled it. Sienna looked at the table for a moment. Then she looked at Frank. The first night we met, she said. He said his marriage had been over for 2 years. He said he was waiting for the right moment to leave. She paused. That was 14 months ago. 14 months. 14 months before Sienna came to that hearing. 14 months before the filing. 14 months before the 4 leather suitcases and the frozen accounts and the $237. 4 months before Catherine became pregnant. The math was not subtle. Brandon was very still. Catherine looked at him. She did not look away. She waited for him to meet her eyes, to see her, to acknowledge what was sitting between them in that courtroom like a piece of furniture. He did not look at her. She turned back to the judge. Wells was reading something. When she set it down, her expression was the particular neutral of someone who has made a decision and is confirming it. The prenup is void, she said. The co-signatory claim is rejected on the grounds of the forensic analysis. Community property applies. The embezzlement findings are referred to the district attorney for criminal review. She looked at Brandon's lawyer. Counsel, your client spent this entire proceeding trying to establish that his wife was the problem. What the evidence shows is a woman who was systematically deceived by someone who had been planning his exit before their child was conceived. I've seen enough. She closed the folder. We're done here. The settlement took 3 months to finalize. $2.3 million. Cash. No gag order. No restrictions. Catherine could tell her story to anyone she wanted, in any forum, and there was nothing Brandon could do about it. Brandon's criminal trial began 6 weeks later. Catherine did not follow it. She was busy. Guilty on all counts. 7 years in federal prison. She heard about the verdict from Frank, who texted one sentence. Jury came back. All counts. 7 years. She was in the middle of a client call when the message arrived. She finished the call. She noted the verdict in a document she kept for things that were important and needed to be recorded. Then she closed the document and went back to work. The company she was building did not require his destruction to exist. It had never been about him. That was the part the headlines always got wrong. The revenge narrative. The scorned woman building an empire to spite a man. She was not spiting anyone. She was becoming herself. She was finishing a project she had started 12 years ago and put down when someone she loved had needed her to be a supporting character in his story instead. She was done being a supporting character. Morrison Marketing Group launched formally when the twins were 3 months old. Website, business structure, professional identity. Marcus brought the first round of serious clients. Diane ran operations with the focused efficiency of someone who had been trained for corporate law and had discovered that what she actually wanted to do was build things. 6 months postpartum, 15 clients, annual revenue projected at $400,000. 12 months, 25 clients, 3 employees. Forbes noted her in a profile of women entrepreneurs to watch. 18 months, she bought a house. 3 bedrooms, 2 bathrooms, a yard, her name on the deed, her mortgage, her choice. The twins walked at 11 months, talked at 14. Elijah said mama approximately 90 times a day. Meredith said no with a conviction that suggested she had given the matter serious thought. Brandon's supervised visitation happened every Sunday. 2 hours at a family center. He tried. He was awkward with them, held them stiffly, did not know how to read to them or sing to them or make them laugh. After 4 months, he filed to reduce his visitation to twice monthly. The court approved it. After 8 months, he stopped showing up regularly. The twins began to call him Brandon. Not Dad, not Daddy, Brandon. The man who sometimes came and brought toys that did not match their interests, who sat with them for an hour, looking like someone fulfilling a scheduled obligation. One Sunday evening after a visit, Elijah looked at Catherine with the direct interrogative energy of a 3-year-old who has questions and has decided now is the time. Why doesn't Brandon know us? Catherine sat down on the floor with him, which was where the best conversations happened. Because he wasn't here, she said. He made a choice not to be. And when you choose not to be somewhere, you miss things. You miss knowing people. Do you miss him? Catherine considered the question with the honesty it deserved. I miss who I thought he was, she said, not who he actually turned out to be. Elijah considered this. Meredith, who had been listening from behind a pile of blocks, added, We have you. You have me, Catherine agreed. And Aunt Di. And Aunt Di, and Grandma Vivian, and Grandma Margaret. Margaret Ashford came on Sunday afternoons once a month. She brought age-appropriate toys and read picture books with the patient attention of someone making up for lost time. She loved them fiercely and without condition, the love of a grandmother who understood that she was building something she could not buy back. 3 years after the custody hearing, Morrison Group filed for its IPO. Marcus led the investment round. Diane flew to New York for the roadshow. Catherine did interviews in a hotel conference room with Elijah and Meredith sleeping in a travel crib in the corner because the nanny had the flu and because she had long ago stopped apologizing for being a mother in professional settings. The day before the bell, she sat in her home office and opened the letter she had written to her children when they were 2 months old, saved in a folder she had labeled for later. She read it. She thought about who had written it. The woman on the air mattress in the 300-square-foot studio with $237 and 2 babies and a laptop and an idea. She thought about who was reading it now. She closed the document. She went upstairs and checked on the twins, who were asleep in their rooms. Elijah sprawled on his back, taking up the maximum possible space. Meredith curled with Biscuit the rabbit. Methodical and intentional, even in sleep, she stood in the hallway between their rooms and listened to them breathe. This was the thing the headlines would never be able to capture, she thought. Not the $870 million, not the Forbes profile or the NASDAQ bell or the victory over a man who had believed she would disappear quietly. This, the sound of 2 small people breathing in their rooms in a house that was hers, on a street she had chosen, in a life she had built from $237 and an idea and the particular stubbornness of someone who had been told she was not enough and had decided, quietly, to disagree. The bell was at 9:30 in the morning. Elijah fought his tie all the way from the hotel to the trading floor. Meredith held Biscuit and assessed the crowd. Diane cried behind her sunglasses. Marcus stood in the front row. The board lit up. Morrison Group, $32 per share. $870 million. Catherine rang the bell. The floor erupted. Meredith said, "Mama, are we rich now?" Catherine picked her up. Elijah reached up, and she picked him up too, one on each hip, the weight of them, the most grounding thing she had ever known. "We're secure," she said. "That's better than rich." "What does secure mean?" Elijah asked. "It means no one can take it away." He thought about this. He was 4 years old and thinking very hard. Not even Brandon? Not even Brandon. Meredith rested her head against Catherine's shoulder. She had been watching the trading floor with the calm attention of someone cataloging information for future use. "Good," she said simply. "The cameras found them. The photos would run in every business publication in the country. A woman in a navy blazer, 2 small children on her hips. The number on the board behind her, the expression on her face. Later, people would describe the expression differently. Some said it was triumph. Some said it was relief. Some said it was the particular look of someone who has finished something very long and very difficult and is allowing themselves, finally, to know it." Catherine would say, when asked, that she was not thinking about any of those things. She was thinking about 2 heartbeats on a hospital monitor, holding steady in a room where everything else had stopped making sense. She was thinking about 47 ceiling tiles. She was thinking about a woman who had started over at 32 with $237 and a decision not to disappear. She was thinking, "I told you we would be okay. I told you." Editorial disclaimer. The content of this story, including its narrative structure, character development, dramatic arc, and emotional framing, was researched, constructed, and manually edited by our team with the sole purpose of delivering meaning, inspiration, and genuine value to our audience. Every element was chosen with intention. We hope it reached you the way it was meant to.